Hi everyone, welcome to the Cuddle live stream. I see people are just joining. So quick show and tell while people show up. In some previous live stream, I was showing you some ceramics I was working on, and so I just picked up this one yesterday from the studio. It got fired, so you can hear the nice. I think these wolves turn out really nice. You can see the wolves. This was intended to be a planter, so I made these holes at the bottom. Yeah, I'm really happy how this one turned out. This is called underglaze, so it's a bit opaque, but I think it both the black and the red are underglaze. Yeah, pretty happy with this one. So it's my ceramics digital fabrication journey. Yeah, like I actually use Cuddle to like prototype it, that planter. You can see here that I did the size. So I wanted to get the size of this, kind of figure out this is like 7 by 5, and then the base was, here's my base, 6.5 by 5. And then I used Cuddle to like prototype the wolves. So I wanted to like size them correctly. And so here was my cutout using the wolves. I mean, I made those cutouts out of chipboard, and so those are the ones that I use to like sort of stamp it onto the side of the planter. Cool. So that's the quick show and tell. But what I have for you today is sort of deep dive into the offset modifier, because there have been a few questions about it. And so I wanted to show you just like the basic details, and also kind of like more advanced stuff as we've been using with Cuddle. So let me go to the homepage, my dashboard that is, and then I'm gonna create a new blank project. And I'm just gonna call this one the expand or offset deep dive. So here's the idea. I think the basic question that most people ask is, how do I offset text? And there are kind of multiple uses for that, but I'm gonna start with a sort of basic one. So I'm gonna use connected text. I'm gonna search for connected here on the search. So I'm gonna grab my connected text and place it on the center. And for this example, I'm gonna align it centered. And so I think what most people would like to do is to make some text and then create a backer for it. So I think the basic thing to do is to, well, let's write something here. I'm gonna write I love cats. Oh, or should it be? Yeah, let's start with that. So if I want to create a backer for this, I need to duplicate it, so I can select it, and then I can either go to edit and duplicate, or I could also just copy and paste it, but I'm gonna duplicate it. So that creates another copy like right on top of it, and then I'm gonna go to modify and add the expand modifier, also called offset here in parentheses. Seems like that's the question that that's the word that most people use to look for this operation. And so as you can see, it immediately creates a sort of offset outline of that text. And then when I select it, the option I have is to increase the distance from the main. So in this case, I can expand it onto all things join. And if I want to cut that separately, I think I would like to change the stroke color. So I'm just gonna do like a red or something like that. And then something that you will run into frequently is that even if you offset your text, when you offset your text, it's gonna have some holes. And so those holes are gonna be preserved. And so often you want to get rid of those holes. And so on that same version and the third instance of the text that I made, I can apply this other handy modifier called remove holes. So that gets rid of the holes. So this piece can be cut as a single part. So I think that's a very basic kind of connected text example. So, grab your text, duplicate it, add the expand that you want, and then remove the holes. And even after you've done all these operations, you can always, go in and change the distance, make it bigger or smaller, and you can still cut it. I think if I were to cut these, I would probably separate the backer from the text I want to cut, so I can just place it when I'm done. So I could simply just move it aside like that. So I have my main, I guess often you want to cut that out of like different color materials. Yeah, so that's a good question. Like it says, why did I duplicate it and not just offset the original? Yeah, it's because it's because I wanted to preserve this version to cut it. So, okay, so that's like the first basic example. But let's do something more elaborate. So, this is going to work also for non-connected text, of course. So I can try it out. I'm going to create another component here, and then I'm just going to grab my basic text. I'm going to do the center align. So I feel like I'm making a sign, and so I'm going to go ahead and write something here. Always thinking about cats. I have cats in my mind. I'm going to change the font. I think the thicker fonts look kind of cool with these. And same operation. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate it. So I can also duplicate it by clicking here. There's an option here that says duplicate. So it's going to duplicate that exact thing that I have selected. I'm going to apply the expand modifier. Let's do it a little bigger. I'm going to change the color of the outline just to make it more readable and also to cut it. And yeah, it looks like I could join those two sections right there. So I'm going to make it a little bigger. And here is even more obvious that I want to remove all those extra holes. So I'm going to select that one and remove the holes. I guess this one would work, say, for example, if you're engraving the text, like if you don't want to cut two separate ones. So if I were to engrave this text, I would probably want it to have a fill. And then something I could adjust here is that like this I is like touching the Y. And I can, of course, change the line height. So if I adjust the line height, I should get like a, well, this is interesting. I kind of, this is a good segue to what I want to talk about next. This adjusted the line height just for this text, for this instance of the text. But I want to adjust the line height also for the outline. You probably know where this is going, but so that was just the example with non-connected text in case you want to engrave it. Now let me show you another example, which is a way of explaining a couple of features of the expand. So sometimes you just want to expand, any basic shape, say something like a rectangle. And so if I apply the expand modifier to that one, you'll notice how it immediately creates these rounded corners. And so it's doing that by default because the rounded corners are kind of nicer in general for most uses. But there might be some instances where you don't want those corners to be rounded. I'm going to duplicate it to have just I'm going to delete that expand. So we have the original, and then we have the one that is expanded. Let me change the color to highlight it. So So you can see how those coordinates get rounded, which is very useful in most cases, but there might be a case somewhere where you don't want those to be rounded. And so when we select the expand, you'll see that there's an option here that says join. And so that applies to the join in between when any line meets. And so the options there are miter, which gives us, perfectly mitered corners, meaning pointy. Then we have the round, which is the default. And then we also have this bevel. So that could be an interesting look or sort of useful thing for you at some point. So that is for all the options. I think I use the miter corners here and there when I want something expanded but not rounded. Like for example, when I'm say using say a polygon. If a polygon is something like that, and I'm trying to do, I should probably delete down. Let me delete that. So if I'm using like a polygon in some sort of design, and I want, and I apply the expand modifier to that, and I actually kind of want those corners preserved, I would generally use the miter. So the expand is applied, but the corners are preserved, so the design is preserved, meaning it looks like the original. So I think that's an example of the when I would use the miter corners. I think the bevel can be an interesting design choice in some cases. You see how it creates this kind of neat bevel corners. But I suppose for most examples, I would stick with the rounded ones. The other example is, so we use text, we use any random shape. I think an interesting kind of side product of using expand is that it will essentially weld any shapes that you have. So, sometimes you will have something like a rectangle. I'm going to delete down. You will have a rectangle. I want this rectangle in the center. Sorry. So I want that rectangle in the center. Then you would have something like a circle. And so I'm kind of creating that shape. And if I apply just the expand modifier, like the resulting shape is going to be both kind of welded and has those corners. So that could be like a quick way of doing certain operations. The other example I was going to show you is that sometimes you want to apply the expand modifier to just an existing SVG. I did a live stream where kind of did that, did only that, and but I'm just gonna bring back another example. So I found this cool llama on this website called the Noun Project, where you can sort of search for different icons and things like that, and then download different things. So I'm gonna download an SVG of that llama. But it's cool. You can find a lot of. Let's see what else is available. So there are a lot of different things you can use, but I'm gonna bring that SVG into Cuddle. So I'm gonna go to File, Import SVG, and I'm gonna grab that llama I just downloaded. I'm gonna open it, and so it came in really big. I think I want to change the size. Like right now, it's like 707 inches. So if I were to cut this llama, I would make it like a 4-inch or something. So I'm gonna type 4 right there. Just gonna resize my llama. I'm gonna bring it back to the center. And then I'm gonna hit here to reset the zoom. And so now I have like a 4 by 3.8 llama. So this is an SVG I brought from outside, and I'm gonna do the same operation. I'm gonna select that SVG. I'm gonna duplicate it. Or I could copy and paste it too. I could do copy and then paste. You can also use your usual Command C, Command V for that. And then on that one on top, I'm going to apply my modifier, the expand. because that one came in with a fill, you can see that it has a fill right there. That's why it looks all black. So I'm gonna change the fill and then probably give it, apply a stroke to it. So I can actually see it. Let's do it at red too. And here is my llama with an outline. And I think if I were to cut also this one, I would also apply the remove holes. So that was the example where I just brought in an SVG, and this is just as useful. Like, you know, sometimes you want to make a pair of earrings or a sign or something like that, and so that's how you would do it. Maybe more distance here. This is an example. Like if I show you, if I change the miter to something else, actually, this one has so many points that it doesn't show so much. Let's see what the miter looks like. Yeah, you can see how, like, with the miter, some things kind of turn pointy. But I digress. Like, this is not. So yeah, this is like a cool example of how to use it with an existing SVG. But let's work on a kind of more elaborate project. I was thinking of a sign. So I'm actually gonna start this one as a new project. So I'm gonna go back to my projects, and then I'm gonna create a new blank one. And let's make a bigger sign. I'm gonna call it the sign with expand. To solve that specific problem, I kind of ran into before, where like I made some change and then I had to like go and do the changes in all the other subsequent things I've made. So this is a good example for using components. So I'm gonna start pretty similarly by using connected text. I'm gonna place it on the center of my canvas, and I also like the center align. Thinking about my cat. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this one as a component. I'm going to call it the main text. I'm just naming it over here. And then I'm going to click that plus sign right below to create a new one. And so what I'm going to do is drag the one that I created onto the same canvas. This is a little bit the equivalent of duplicating it, but we'll see why it's better in this case. And then I'm gonna go ahead and apply the expand to this one. Zoom in to make it more visible. A little more distance. And then I'll remove the holes. And then let's apply a red stroke. So what I did here is that instead of duplicating it, I just dragged an instance of it, but I'm going to drag another instance on top of it to see it. I'm just careful to place it right at the origin. And so I kind of have the same situation that I had before. But the interesting thing is that now I can make changes, and the changes will apply to both parts of the design. So for example, if I go here to the main text and I open it, and there is this text right here, if I apply a change, something like always be thinking about my cat. So you see how that now applied to both the object that I expanded and to the main one. So that's the main convenience. That like if I applied a bunch of different operations, then it's gonna repeat. So, you know, similarly here, I could say that this thinking is kind of like overlapping too much with the always. So I'm gonna go into, what happens here is that I kind of go into focus mode when I select the inside of one of these components. So I'm gonna change the line height. So this is nice because the line height now, it's also applying to that to that expanded outline. So this is cool. Something like that, I suppose. Kind of interesting overlap. So that's using the components. I think if I were to make design, there are some examples in some templates where there is actually another operation applied to it, which is the following. Like, let's say we cut that red outline, and then we cut these letters separately, and then I kind of need a way, like a guide, to glue them in place. And so to create that guide, I could simply sort of score these one. So let's see. If I score it, I'm gonna give it a blue stroke to say that that's gonna be a score. A score is when you select your laser operation to be either to be fast or at a lower power, so the laser doesn't cut all the way through, but creates kind of like a line. So the slight downside of scoring it like this is that sometimes if I go and place the cut design right on top of it, there is a good chance that I could see those score lines kind of on the outside of my letters. And so something that's kind of handy is to apply expands evil twin, which is the contract operation, to that score. So I'm going to go ahead and select that one that I just made blue. And to that one, I'm going to go to modify and apply the, below expand, there's one called contract or inset. So that's going to push it in. And it kind of disappeared because it's too much. So I'm going to make it, I think in general, to have like a nice guide is like, 0.03 inches. So what Toby recommended to me. So the font doesn't look good once it's been contracted. But the whole point of this is that we're going to use this as a guide to place the main text. So that's kind of just going to disappear. I suppose you could always play with the size of that guide, just as long as it's a little bit smaller than your main text. So just to kind of simulate it here, I'm going to grab my main text. And let's give this one a fill so it's kind of clear. So when I go ahead and place these on top in the real world, I'm just going to use that existing score as a guide, and then I'm going to glue it on top, and then the score is going to disappear, hopefully when that is done. But we can, the way I was kind of changing the text here was like I was going into it and clicking it, but we can do that better. We can make it more like template-like. We can make it into a template. It's not a template-like. So I can do that trick where I extract it as a parameter. So I'm going to go to the main text that I created. I'm going to select. So there is this text right here. And if I click on the three dots to the right, you'll see that there is an option that says extract as parameter. And then I actually want to make this into a project parameter, so it applies to everything in the project. And so I'm going to select the three dots again and select the one that says move parameter to project. Kind of moves it into this big folder. That means it's always going to be visible regardless of which component I choose. And so that one is cool because right now I don't have to like do any clicking or any selecting. I can always see these here, and I can change it. So I can say always thinking about my cat. I don't know. I was talking to a friend recently, and he was saying he was always thinking about his dog. I think I like dogs too. I think dogs are. People like dogs and cats. People can like dogs and cats. There is not a big binary here. So I created that as a parameter that I can now go ahead and change if I want to just kind of make signs. And here I have this component that is kind of working for me as a sort of preview, because I placed the score and I placed the letters I'm going to cut. And whatever I change here is going to apply to all of the three things I have going on. I have the basic one, I have the one that is contracted, and I want to have the one that is expanded. I'm always thinking about my dogs. I see that Anna is also a dog person. Nice. I probably adjust this expand a little bit. And so if you're making a lot of designs, you can always just turn this into your template. So this is something I often do, or that we often do, is that we create one component that is like the preview. So it's kind of easy to see. So in this case, I could keep this one as the preview if I return this to the center. So I just kind of can get a sense of what the sign looks like. So I'm going to call that one the preview. And then I'm going to create another one that I tend to call the cut. So that's kind of like my cut file. And so that one is the one that's going to include all the different options, but separated. So it's essentially going to contain these. I'm going to copy them, paste them into here so I don't have to repeat all those operations. So, and then I'm just going to separate it. So when I put it on my laser cutter, it's just two separate things. And I'm going to change this one doesn't have to be filled because in this case, I'm not engraving. I'm just going to give it the red stroke. And the final touch in general is that, if I go to the README, I can always create something like the preview where I can select my things and kind of see what it looks like. So that component is going to be the preview component. So here I can see, I'm always thinking about feeding my dogs. So I can see what the sign looks like, but then I can, add another one that is like the cut file. And that it's that other component that I call the cut. So when I download I could actually separate it a little bit better. So for the cut, I think I would probably place it. Where should I place it? Anyway, there are better ways to do this, but for now, I'm going to do that. So when I download this SVG, then the things are kind of separated. The cuts and the operations are different. And so this is how I would create a sort of quick template, and mostly use the expand and the contract to make it happen. You could also add a little paw here. What does that look like? Yeah, neat. And if I were to make this into a sort of sign making template, there are other things that you might want to add to the parameters you can change. So to make it like quick, you can always add like the font, for example. So I think that would be the most obvious one. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select the connected text. I'm going to extract the font as a parameter that I can change. And I'm going to move it to the main, to the project. And so now if I go to that README, I see that I can actually choose the font right here. So, different fonts are going to work different, but like this is another, the handwriting is the best in this case. Yeah, no. That's kind of cool. So different fonts are going to change all the outlines and how everything works, but you can select it. So cool. That was half an hour of a deep dive on the expand modifier, and then how to create a template with it. Anyway, hopefully you learned something new, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. And if you have any more questions that you want answered, maybe in the next live stream, please leave it in the comments. I will be reading the comments on this video too. And also this video is going to be both on Facebook and YouTube for you to watch. All right, cool. Thank you so much. Bye. I'm going to end the stream now. Have a good day.